Hello guys, welcome back again. Vows stories. New day, new story, new suspense. Let's go play.
The new neighbors kept smiling at my wife like they already knew her. She claimed they'd never met. I believed her. Until one tiny delivery arrived at our door. It was addressed to her, using a name she'd sworn she'd never had. If you've ever felt something crack quietly in your chest while everyone around you kept smiling like nothing was wrong, stay with me till the end of this one. Before we go there, hit subscribe to Vows Stories, because what happened in the next 6 weeks of my life is the kind of thing you don't forget, and I need you to hear all of it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I was 35 years old, I had been married for 6 years, and I thought I knew every inch of the woman I slept next to every night. I worked in logistics for a mid-sized freight company outside Columbus, Ohio, the kind of job where you spend your day staring at spreadsheets and shipment codes until your eyes go dry. My wife worked from home, doing freelance graphic design, and for 6 years that arrangement had felt like a small, quiet kind of luck. I'd come home, she'd still be in her pajama pants with a mug of cold coffee next to her monitor, and we'd order takeout and watch something forgettable on the couch. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that felt like the beginning of anything. Then the new neighbors moved in. It was late spring, the kind of Ohio spring where the air still has a bite to it in the mornings, but the afternoons are warm enough to leave the windows open. A moving truck showed up on a Tuesday, and by Thursday, there was a young couple in their early 30s unloading boxes into the house directly across the street. I remember standing at our kitchen window with a cup of coffee, watching them carry in a couch, and thinking nothing of it. New neighbors? Normal. Ohio suburbs get new neighbors all the time. The first strange thing happened 4 days later, on a Saturday morning. I was out front doing something pointless with the hose, rinsing pollen off the driveway, when the new neighbor, the wife, came jogging past in workout leggings and a loose tank top. She slowed when she saw my wife's car in the driveway, and she smiled. Not a polite new neighbor smile, a warm smile, a knowing smile. The kind of smile you give someone you've had dinner with a dozen times. "Tell her I said hi," she said, and kept jogging. I stood there holding the hose, water pooling around my sneakers, and I thought, tell who what? I hadn't introduced my wife to anyone yet. We hadn't even had the awkward welcome basket conversation that suburban couples are supposed to have. I went inside and mentioned it to my wife, half joking, "Your fan club already started without you." And she looked up from her laptop with an expression I couldn't quite place. It was there for less than a second, gone before I could name it, replaced by a laugh that came out a beat too late. "Weird," she said. "I haven't met her." I let it go. People say things like that. Small talk from a jogger doesn't mean anything. But it kept happening. 3 days later, the husband from across the street waved at my wife through our living room window like they'd known each other for years. This easy, familiar lift of the hand, not the stiff little nod you give a stranger. I watched my wife wave back, automatically, the way you wave back at someone waving at you, and then I watched her face do something strange. A flicker of tension around her eyes. She turned away from the window fast, like she'd been caught at something, though I couldn't have told you what. "Do you know him?" I asked. "No," she said too quickly. "I think he just waves at everyone. Some people are like that." By the second week, it wasn't just waves and jogging past smiles. The new neighbor wife started showing up at our mailbox at the exact same time my wife did, twice, like it was choreographed, and both times they had this stilted, overly polite exchange that didn't sound like two strangers meeting for the first time. It sounded like two people carefully performing the role of strangers meeting for the first time. I noticed the pauses. I noticed how my wife's shoulders would go rigid, just slightly, whenever this woman got close. I want to be honest with you about something. I'm not a naturally suspicious person. I didn't marry my wife looking for reasons to doubt her. For 6 years, I had given her the benefit of every doubt, because that's what you do when you love someone. You extend trust like credit. You assume good faith. But there's a specific kind of cold that creeps into your stomach when you watch your wife lie to your face in real time, Small lie after small lie, each one so minor you almost can't call it a lie, and yet the pile of them starts to weigh something. I brought it up again on a Thursday night, over dinner, trying to keep my voice light. You sure you've never met them? Because they act like they know you. She set her fork down harder than she needed to. I told you I haven't. Why do you keep asking me the same question like I'm going to change my answer? I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying it's strange. It's not strange. It's Ohio. People are friendly. Some people just have big personalities. Can we not do this? I dropped it. Because that's what you do, isn't it? In the early stages of something you can't name yet. You tell yourself you're imagining it. You tell yourself 6 years of trust doesn't get thrown away over a jogger's smile and a neighbor's wave. I went back to work Monday, back to my spreadsheets and my shipment codes, and I told myself I'd overreacted. Here's a quick question for you while we're in the middle of this, and I actually want to know what you think, so drop it in the comments below and I'll come back to it later. If someone you loved kept insisting they'd never met a person, but every small detail said otherwise, would you keep pushing? Or would you let it go and wait for the truth to surface on its own? Hold that thought. Because I let it go. And I regret it. By the third week, the smiling had turned into something closer to familiarity that didn't need performance anymore. I came home early one Tuesday, some meeting had gotten canceled, and I saw the neighbor wife standing at the edge of our driveway talking to my wife, and this time there was no stiffness in it at all. My wife was laughing, really laughing, the kind of laugh she used to save for me in the early years, before the routine of marriage smoothed it down into something smaller. When she noticed my car pulling in, the laugh cut off like someone had hit a switch. The neighbor wife said something quick, waved, and walked back across the street. My wife turned to greet me with a smile that didn't match the one I'd just watched disappear. "What was that about?" I asked. "Nothing. She was just asking about the HOA meeting." We didn't have an HOA. I knew that because we'd specifically chosen this street because it didn't have one. I didn't say anything, I just filed it away, the way you file away every small inconsistency when you're not ready to look at the whole pile yet. Then came the delivery. It was a Friday afternoon, and I was working from home that day, catching up on emails at the kitchen table while my wife was out running errands. I heard the delivery truck outside, the familiar diesel rumble, and I went to grab the package off the porch before the Ohio humidity could warp the cardboard. It was a small box, the kind you'd get from an online boutique, lightweight, maybe a piece of jewelry or a scarf. I picked it up to bring it inside and glanced at the shipping label, mostly out of habit, the way you check a package to make sure it's actually yours. The address was ours. Our house number, our street, our zip code. The name was not my wife's name. It was close. It was close enough that if you were skimming it, you might not notice. A variation on her first name, a completely different last name, one I had never heard in 6 years of marriage. I stood on the porch holding that box for what felt like a full minute, reading it over and over, waiting for the letters to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They didn't. The name stayed the same every time I read it. My hands were cold when I finally brought it inside. I set the box on the kitchen counter, and I didn't open it. I sat down at the table, and I stared at it, and I thought about every jog-by smile, every wave, every laugh that cut off too fast, every "I've never met her." And something in my chest went very still and very quiet, the way things get right before they get loud. When my wife got home an hour later, arms full of grocery bags, I was still sitting at that table with the box in front of me. "What's that?" she asked, setting the bags down. "It's for you," I said. "Apparently." She came closer, and I watched her face change when she saw the name on the label. I watched the color actually leave her cheeks. She didn't say anything for a long moment, long enough that the silence itself became an answer. "Who is that?" I said. Not a question anymore, a demand. Okay, let me explain. Who is that? It's an old name, from before. I don't use it anymore, it's nothing. It's just a name I used to have some accounts under. You've never had another name. You told me that? You told my parents that? You told the officiant at our wedding that it's on our marriage license. One name, your name. So who is this? She sat down slowly across from me, and her hands were shaking, and for a second I almost felt sorry for her, out of pure reflex. 6 years of loving someone doesn't switch off just because you're furious at them. Before I moved here, she said, before I met you, I had a different life, a different name. Legally changed, it's not fake, I changed it back. Years ago. Before we even started dating. Why would you change your name back to something and never tell me you had a different one? Because that name belonged to a version of me I didn't want anymore. That doesn't answer my question. Why is a delivery coming to our house, addressed to our address, using a name you swore to me you never had? Who ordered this? Why would anyone still be using that name to reach you unless someone here knows you by it? She didn't answer. She looked at the box like it might bite her. It's them, isn't it? I said. The neighbors. That's why they act like they know you. That's why you keep lying about never meeting them. They know you by that name. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I have ever heard in my own kitchen. I knew her before, my wife finally said, barely above a whisper. In my old life. Before I changed everything. Before I changed my name and moved states and met you. We were close. Closer than close for a while. Close how? Does it matter how? It matters exactly how, because you've been standing in front of me for 3 weeks telling me you've never met these people, while apparently you used to be close enough that she still has your old name saved somewhere, close enough to send you a package at our house, close enough that her husband waves at you like family. So yes, it matters how. She started crying then. The kind of crying that isn't really about sadness, it's about being caught. And I sat there, and I let her cry without offering a single word of comfort. Because for the first time in 6 years, I understood that comfort was not owed. By the end of that night, in pieces, in fragments, in half-sentences, she kept retracting the second they left her mouth. I learned that the woman across the street was not a stranger. She was someone from my wife's life before Ohio, before me, before the name I had married. They had lived together for a period of time my wife refused to specify with a number of months or years, only saying a while, and something had ended badly enough that my wife had rebuilt her entire identity around leaving it behind, new city, new name, new life, me. And somehow, impossibly, that woman had ended up moving into a house directly across the street from the life my wife had built to escape her. You're telling me this is a coincidence, I said. She just happened to buy a house across from ours. I don't know, my wife said. I don't know if it's a coincidence. I've been asking myself that every single day since they moved the truck in. And you didn't think to mention any of this to me? Not the first day? Not the first week? You just decided to stand at our mailbox performing this whole charade of strangers meeting for the first time while I stood next to you feeling like I was losing my mind? I panicked. I didn't know how to explain it without explaining everything, and I wasn't ready to explain everything. You've had 6 years to be ready. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to a woman I had shared a bed with for 6 years, and she felt like a stranger wearing my wife's face. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and sat in the living room, and through the gap in the curtains, I could see a light still on in the house across the street, and I wondered if she was awake too, wondering the same things I was. The days after that were the kind of quiet that isn't peace, it's a held breath. My wife tried to explain more, in careful installments, like she was rationing the truth to keep me from overdosing on it. She told me the relationship had ended because of something she called a bad exit, which I eventually understood to mean there had been infidelity, on whose side she wouldn't clearly say, and a level of control in that relationship that had frightened her badly enough to change her legal name and move 4 states away. She told me she'd never expected to see this woman again in her life. She told me that when the moving truck pulled up, she had frozen at the window, certain she was hallucinating, and had spent every day since trying to figure out how to tell me without unraveling everything we had built. You could have unraveled it the honest way, I told her. Instead, you unraveled it by lying to my face for 3 weeks while I thought I was going insane. I want to pause here and ask you something else, because this is the part where things really started to shift, and I want to know if you saw it coming the way I eventually did. Do you think it really was a coincidence that this woman ended up across the street, or do you think there was something more deliberate happening? Type your theory in the comments. I read every single one, and I promise you, the actual answer is stranger than most of the guesses I've seen. It was the following week that the second delivery arrived, and this time, I was the one who signed for it, because I'd made a decision after the first box that nothing coming into our house would go unexamined again. It was another small package, same boutique, same handwriting style on the enclosed card, which I opened without asking permission, because I had stopped asking permission for things days earlier. The card read, in handwriting my wife swore she didn't recognize but that I later learned, through a slip in a conversation I wasn't supposed to overhear, absolutely belonged to the woman across the street. It said simply, I told you I'd find you again. Some things don't stay buried. I confronted my wife with that card in my hand, and this time there was no more room for half-truths. She's not just an old roommate, I said. This isn't nostalgia. This is a threat dressed up as sentiment. What exactly happened between you two, and don't give me the sanitized version this time. What came out over the following 2 hours, in a conversation that included long silences and my wife's voice cracking more than once, was this. The relationship had been controlling in ways that had taken my wife years of therapy to fully name, even to herself. There had been financial entanglement that had taken her a long time to untangle. There had been a period, right before she left, when she genuinely feared what this woman might do if she tried to walk away cleanly, which is why she hadn't walked away cleanly. She had disappeared. New name, new city, new everything. A clean severing instead of a slow goodbye. And now, years later, that severing had apparently not been permanent, because the woman she'd vanished from had somehow tracked down her new name, her new address, and moved her entire life across the street from it. Did you tell her husband any of this? I asked. Does he know what he married into? I don't know what she's told him. I don't know anything anymore. I'll be honest with you about what I did next, because I think you deserve the unfiltered version, not some cleaned-up hero's journey. I didn't confront the neighbors that week. I didn't call the police, because nothing illegal had technically happened yet. A package with an old name isn't a crime. A handwritten note isn't a crime, not on paper. What I did instead was quieter and, I'll admit, colder. I started documenting everything, every wave, every smile, every package, every note, time-stamped, photographed, saved. I installed a doorbell camera, the kind with continuous recording, and I told my wife it was for general security, which wasn't exactly a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth either. And I discovered in that moment that I had learned something from her after all. 2 weeks later, the camera caught the neighbor wife standing at the edge of our lawn at 11 at night, just standing there, staring at our house, for 11 full minutes, before turning and walking back across the street. I showed the footage to my wife without a word. She watched it twice, and I watched something in her finally break open into something closer to fear than guilt. I need to end this, she said. Properly. Not by disappearing again. By ending it. What followed was the part of this story that still doesn't feel entirely real to me, even now. My wife, with my support, and with the quiet backing of a lawyer, we consulted about harassment and stalking, decided to stop running. Instead of vanishing a second time, we compiled everything, the footage, the packages, the notes, and we took it to the local police department, who took it more seriously than I expected once they saw the pattern laid out chronologically. A restraining order was filed. It wasn't instant, it wasn't dramatic like it is in movies. It was paperwork and waiting rooms and a hearing that took 4 months to schedule, but it happened. The husband across the street, it turned out, genuinely hadn't known the full history. When the order was served and the situation became impossible to hide from him, he moved out within 3 weeks, and from what a mutual neighbor later told us, the marriage across the street didn't survive the unraveling either. The woman herself stayed in the house alone for a while, past the edge of the restraining order's boundary line, a strange, tense standoff of geography, until 6 months after all of it started, a for sale sign went up on her lawn, and one gray October morning, another moving truck pulled away, this time in the opposite direction, and it never came back. As for my marriage, I won't pretend it healed clean. Trust doesn't stitch itself back together just because the villain moves away. There were months of me flinching at every closed laptop, every private phone call, every unexplained silence, months of therapy, both together and separately, months where I genuinely didn't know if I would stay. What kept me there, in the end, wasn't a single dramatic moment of forgiveness. It was watching my wife choose, every single day, to be transparent in a way she had never been before, to tell me things before I had to ask, to stop protecting old secrets out of habit. We're still married. It's a different marriage than the one I thought I had 6 years ago, quieter in some ways, more careful, but also, strangely, more honest than it had ever been before that box showed up on our porch with a stranger's name on it. Edit, since a lot of you have asked the same thing in the comments. No, we never fully found out what made the woman track my wife across 4 states, whether it was obsession, unresolved anger, or something else entirely, because she never gave a statement beyond what the restraining order hearing required, and we didn't push for more than our own safety needed. Edit 2, for the people asking about the husband. As far as we know, he moved back in with family out of state, and we never heard from him again, and honestly, we didn't try to. Some doors you leave shut on purpose. If this story hit something in you, if you've ever felt that specific, cold, sinking feeling of watching someone you love lie to your face in real time, I want to hear it. Tell me in the comments what you would have done differently, or the same, because stories like this only mean something when we talk about them together. Thank you for staying till the end.
Thanks for watching this story. Please share your thought in comment. And thank you. Support me. Bye bye.